Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nadine October, and I'm delighted to have the privilege to welcome you into our ecosystem webinar this afternoon. This is the last one for 2025. It really is hard to believe that we find ourselves in December and at the end of the year already. And I think that if you are a small business owner, already, or if you're contemplating starting a business, you are in the right place this afternoon and in very good company. Today, we're going to spend some time getting up for 2026 and we'll be answering your questions. We've received hundreds of questions in preparation for the webinar, and we also have our two guests who are here this afternoon, Mrs. Lyndall Moodley and Mr. Kholisile Khumalo, who are alumni from our SAB Foundation Tholoana Enterprise Program. They will be sharing some of the challenges that they've overcome and be participating in sharing some advice as well as answering your questions. But before we proceed, I'd like to introduce Catherine Wijnberg. She is our CEO and founder at Fetola, and she'll be leading our webinar today. Fetola has been operational for just nearly 20 years. We're celebrating 20 years next year. So Catherine comes with an amazing amount of wisdom that she'll be sharing today. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you so much. I don't know if you can see me. It looks a bit dark in here. I think that's because it's snowing outside. But I thought maybe in the light of it being in the year end, I'd bring some festive spirit. So thanks Nadine for that intro. And welcome everybody. I can't believe the number of questions we've had from you. There's like more than 300. I'm looking at the deck now. One of the reasons I'm in this rather strange position is because I want to be able to see the list of questions. But I'm telling you, there are 304 questions, and that's not even the update that came in today. So that's huge. It's huge. And let's see how we can get through at least some of them, some of the themes. But yeah, so welcome everybody and fantastic. Let's get this show on the road. So I've just jumped in from it's a busy time of year, right? Everything's in rush mode. So let's just see, I'm not going to go to the deck because I'm a bit fumbling here. Matlatsi, can you do the usual poll? I don't think we've done that yet. So let's do the usual poll and just find out who's in the room. I always say for Kholisile and Lyndall and myself, we need to know who we're speaking to. And it's always good to say, where are you from? Who are you and what are you keen to find out about? So let's roll with the poll.
Are you able to see the poll, Kathy?
Yes, I can see it. 3 questions on it, right? 4 questions.
Four questions, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Nice questions. I'm also having to fill in if I've somehow joined as a participant. So can I take this off now?
Yes, you can. I think everyone was enjoying it.
Okay, great. Okay. This can be a prize. Anybody add us a really good prize? We'll add this to your prize box. How's that? Most people from Gauteng. As I say, that's never surprising because I think 50% of the economy revolves around Gauteng. So of course, where there's the economy, there's entrepreneurs. So that's a fair representation from Gauteng, 50% from there. 1 or 2 from Limpopo and Mpumalanga, and a few from Northern Cape. Well done, that's a win. I always say there's not many people live in Northern Cape, so when they turn up to our webinar, we're super excited. And then Western Cape, that's great. So nice representation, nobody from outside of the country. Welcome, everybody. Everybody's welcome. We like to have our fingers and our touch points in every corner of South Africa. And so it's always nice to see, even if there's just 1 or 2 people from a province, always fantastic to have you on board. So welcome, everybody. Yeah, most people are wanting to get unique insights. Has everybody seen the results of this poll, or am I just talking to myself? Can everybody see the results?
They're visible for
We
everyone.
can see,
Oh,
Kathy.
everybody can see it. I just thought, like when you go off on a conversation and nobody knows what you're talking about. A bit like being married, isn't it? Anyway, so 60% want to gain unique insights. 40% want to network. That means just chat. And when I give you the opportunity to speak up, guys. This is how we make friends. And, at the end of the day, the network is your most value, more value than anything else these days. So that's fantastic. Get closer to future opportunities. That's great. 2% said they wanted something else. So I might be interested to know what else you wanted from something like this. Maybe put it in the chat. If you said other and you're brave enough to say why, there's no dating happens here. You can't find a husband, you can't find a wife. So that's not possible in the other. Anyway, and then we got lots of people wanting to know cash flow. That's always the issue, isn't it? Marketing, there's pretty well equal right across the board here. So everybody has everyone's got something that they want answers to. Few people want to launch. Most people wanting 40% wanting to grow revenue. Don't we all? I mean, I think most people, you're in business to grow. That's the excitement, isn't it? It's a bit like being a gardener. You want to plant seeds and see them grow. Improve operations, secure funding, 42% pivot, or build partnerships. That's fantastic. Thanks, guys. Thanks so much for responding. So we have a good understanding as to who, who's on the call. Perfect?
Yep.
Yes.
Hey, good. That's fantastic. Okay, for those of you, the few of you that don't know Fetola, we're here. I always say we're here to make the world a better place. And we do that by helping people just like you to start, grow, and scale their business. And next year is our 20-year anniversary. So keep a lookout for some fantastic celebrations. Does my sound okay? Is there a problem with the sound? Okay. Are you muting somebody? Okay, great. All right. Okay. There we go. So a lot of you asked questions about programs. So there were quite a few. I think there were about 20% of questions were, how do I get in a program? Do you have a program for startups? Do you help the businesses in the rural sector? Why is it so hard to tick a box? And so I just thought it would be really good just to quickly show this slide so that anybody that's not aware of what we do, I hope this is going to answer those queries. So the programs, this is a list of our programs that are running currently. And the ones in red are the ones that we're busy building up for a call campaign that'll start early in next year. And so the FNB Youth Startup, those people that were asking, do you have programs for early stage or for startups? That's what that is all about. So the FNB Youth Startup Program, is for people under the age of 35 that have either got a good idea that they want to implement or they've already started in the very, very early stages of testing and proving a business model. So that's something that those people that were looking for that's a fantastic program, really super, super results and lots of interest, lots of excitement for that. Number 3 is we also will be launching next year a call for the SASL Sustainability Accelerator. So that's going to be for a very select number of people, number of businesses that are either already sustainable or looking to become sustainable and move into circular economy. So again, that's for businesses that maybe would be suitable for getting into the supply chain for Sasol and other similar big corporates to say, okay, they want to be part of the Sustainability Accelerator. Again, jump on. I'm going to give you the link just now where you go in order to pre-register for these things. Then down at the bottom, number 7 is our Booking.com Tourism Accelerator. So they're looking to have another round of that next year. And in fact, we've got another one that I'm not able to speak about, but another program in tourism. So there's 2 tourism programs coming up next year. So again, if you're keen, if that's your sector, if you want to be part of something that's really, really game changing and in the tourism value chain, also jump on and make sure you pre-register. And then the last one, point 8, is circularity for business success. So that is a second round of our circular economy, so practical circularity, how to make your business more profitable, people-friendly, and planet-positive. That's an amazing program. So again, if you're in an industry, it doesn't matter what sector you're in, doesn't have to be like a green business, doesn't have to be something that's only about circularity, but it's a business that you think that you can really expand, and you're interested in becoming more planet friendly. You're interested in saying, how do I build a business that's profitable, people friendly, and planet positive? So all of those 4 things in red are about to open. So get in there early, get there, pre-register so that you're the first to know when the applications open. And then otherwise, those ones in black are the ones you all know, the Tholoana program, the SAP Foundation Tholoana program. That's been going on for 10 years. That's an amazing program that helps people right across South Africa. It's got a lot of focus in the rural areas and in township, and that helps people, women especially, is a big focus on women. There's a focus on youth and people with disability. But it's not exclusionary. So if you were somebody that was 50 and you had an amazing business that you wanted to grow, we feel that it's a good possibility for growth. You can also apply there. So it's not exclusive. A lot of these things are saying there's a preference too. It doesn't mean to say that you're just not allowed to apply. Yeah, so I think that's probably enough on that slide. Maybe just to the point, there were a couple of people saying, why is it so hard to get into the accelerators? And the reality is that it's our job well, first of all, they're very popular because they really are game changing. And I think that these accelerators are arguably the best accelerators in South Africa. They're the ones that really make a difference to you. They're not just tick boxing. We're here as a whole team dedicated to take you from where you are to a better place so that you can have a business that's thriving in 10 years' time. So they're very high quality. So they're very much in demand. But also it's important to know, as you've seen from this list, each one is different. So you may have a really good business, but if it isn't a fit to the accelerator, you won't get on the accelerator. So it's really important when you apply, when there's application, take a lot of time to just make sure with the criteria that they say you match it. So if the criteria is it have to be you, there's no point in applying if you're not you. You may be too young or you may be too old, right? So that's probably the thing, is it's very high quality. They are difficult to get into for a reason. And please just take a note to see that you match the criteria. I hope that's been useful. Maybe just give me a thumbs up if this was useful to those of you that were asking program questions. Thanks, Kholisile. You, I can see. I'm not able to see the other guys. Okay. All right, great. And then
There's quite a few thumbs up, Kathy.
Quite a few thumbs up. Thank you for that.
Quite a few.
Okay, and then let me tell you, we had a plethora. So I think almost 50% of the questions, 46% of the questions were around funding. And so what I've taken from this is we will have a dedicated webinar just to speak about access to finance in next year. So there's too many questions for us to be able to handle on funding, access to funding. But just wanted to say that we do have these three funds rather, have these three funds operating through Fetola. So it is worth going onto the apply here for to be able to, if you're looking for finance in those particular sectors, do jump onto that and put in, start the process for putting in the application. But to just very briefly deal with a couple of things, you got to remember, first of all, startup finance is almost impossible to achieve anywhere in the world. It doesn't, not just a South African thing, and it's nothing to do with who you are. It's just that investors want to invest in something they believe can be successful. And if you're just at idea phase, there's a huge risk. 9 out of 10 startups fail. And so to get somebody to believe in your initiative in order to give you startup funding is almost impossible to get. That is, by the way, one of the really exciting things about the Youth Startup Accelerator, the FNB Youth Startup Accelerator, because there are small amounts of grant finance to help you get started there. But yeah, so I think I'll just move on from that. I don't want to get stuck on finance. Yeah, the network advantage, I think, let me just skip over that. Basically, it's just saying that if you want to get ahead in business, build your network. And what we're saying here is that all of these people on the call, all 300 people that put questions in, one of the things is by coming into a group like this, you're already getting yourself ahead. So whether you're on a program or whether you're just in the community in Fetola, you're already in a network, and those shared ideas and those shared thoughts, such as this webinar that we're holding now, is one of the ways, one of the tools to give you advantage to succeed in your business. Cool. Okay. And so yeah, so again, so these are the QR codes. So please, those of you, please, if you haven't already done so, just scan on the QR code, and maybe the guys will give a link in the chat as well for those of you that are not comfortable with QR codes. But really get in the ecosystem, be the first to know when opportunities come up. Does that make sense? All good? Happy? Oh, all right. Okay, so let's move straight on. I am going to first of all introduce Kholisile, Khumalo. So Kholisile and Fetola go back quite a long time now, nearly 10 years, I think. So let me go to the next slide so you can see who I'm talking about. So what is amazing about Kholisile, I think you have here a really resilient entrepreneur. So he started his business, 10 years ago more? How long have you been in business, Kholisile?
It's 11 years this year, Kathy.
11 years. So he started his business 11 years ago, very much a social entrepreneur. So he's motivated by a desire to make a difference in South Africa to South Africans. And he has focused particularly on scuba diving, but also you'll hear from him now on in swimming generally. And so what's interesting about his model is it's a social enterprise model, but he's really built it on business principles. And let's go over to Kholisile right now. And now I need to exit. Sorry. Kholisile, why don't you start introducing yourself while I try and find out where the unshare button is.
Thank you so very much for the opportunity. But I really would like to say thank you very much to the SAB Foundation Tholoana program for assisting me in this journey. As it has been presented, I'm a social entrepreneur. I focus mostly on diving when I started. It was focused on diving. Then it evolved to realize that swimming is as important. But now, as time progresses, we are sort of pivoting into other areas. So we have a great privilege to indeed be part of the SAB Foundation Tholoana program, assisted us in opening our eyes, to many, many, many opportunities. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to engagement.
Excellent. Thanks, Kholisile. I think let's just jump straight into it and ask you the simple question. What is the biggest challenge that you've faced over time in building your social enterprise? What has been your greatest challenge?
I had a contract and I couldn't get funding. I had a signed contract that was worth several hundreds of thousands of rands, but I couldn't get funding. So you would believe that because you are holding a piece of paper, you're going to run into a bank, you're going to run into a funder, and you're going to get funding right away. It's not going to happen. You need to bootstrap. So bootstrapping became an essential part of my business. But importantly for me, when I joined the Tholoana program, the SAB Foundation Tholoana program, I learned one thing, and one thing that was very important. And I don't know if you remember, Kathy, you taught us to be confident. And, at that time, I took it for granted that confidence is just something, a flimsy concept, but it's exceptionally important in your business. Because if you can't verbalize confidently, share your business, share your vision, nobody's going to come and support you.
Love it. What did you do then? I mean, I think part of your strategy was diversification, right?
Absolutely. So before diversifying, I needed to start. I had to go and beg to my wife and say, please, I need support. And that's another early realization that you need support from people immediately around you. So we had to dip into our savings to start running the business so that we can start earning, money from the contract. So bootstrapping was very, very important. Financial control systems were very important. And the Tholoana Foundation Enterprise Development Program came in extremely handy because I remember we did the green accounting program, if my memory serves me well. And it really helped to switch on the lights to say, hey, your bank account for the business is different from your bank account for your personal things. You have to have tight controls over there. But for us, what we did was we very quickly realized that we need an accountant who would help us, and a very, very experienced accountant came to us. Fortunately, it was a friend who walked the journey with us, helping us, against the pitfalls. So that's what we did to actually sort of kickstart, that spark that was required to light up the business.
Nice. I'm going to throw a question that came on the list to you, and somebody came on. They said, "How do you survive in a business when there's no revenue coming in and there's still staff to be paid? And how do you get through that?" And it sounds to me like you've experienced exactly that. So, what advice would you give to that person?
Several times, Kathy, I have experienced that, and personally, we have lost things. So if you are not ready to lose things, if you're not ready to sacrifice some of the nice things in life, you will not survive in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, what we would do is whenever there is income, you must have a savings account to anticipate all of these pitfalls, because as I've learned, a business is cyclical. You are going to go through these troughs, the peaks and the troughs. So when you are on a good cycle, it's very, very important for you to invest so that when you are on the downward trend, you can go and draw from those funds until another cycle. But the most important thing that we learned was our sales cycle take on average 16 to 18 months. So if you know your sales cycle, you are able to prepare and to predict when is the bad trough going to happen, when is the good trough going to happen. So you need to jealously guard those cycles. So our accountant very, very quickly and very efficiently taught us that these are your sales cycles and these are very, very
Nice.
there's a whole lot of things that we could share.
Nice. And then, so when you have been successful in applying for funding, and I understand, you have been successful over time, what do you think is the one thing that you got right? So what do you think you have to get right? So when you're at the point of, well, maybe it's not just funding, is it? Sometimes it's access to market. But when you're building a new relationship like that, what do you think is the one thing that everyone should get right? And what is it, maybe one thing that you think that you can still improve on?
You must be credible. When you go ask for somebody's money, you must be credible. Credibility and your track record are two things that you can never, those are 100% important, because people will come and look at you and say, "Hey, you want to take my child underwater? What's the risk of drowning?" And you say, "Well, here's my track record. Over the past 10 years, we have taken kids who can't swim to save their lives, but now they go 50, 60 meters underwater." So that's track record, that's credibility. What do I need to improve on? I think the sales cycles are too long. I need to work on improving the sales cycles, because we are a safety-focused organization. Now, when we are in a safety mode, we forget to focus on other things. And when we had the poll earlier, I said I need to find the right person who can fire me from my organization so that I can focus on safety. Focus on finding funding whilst they focus on safety.
Yeah, nice input. Okay, thanks, Kholisile. I think I'll come back to you just now, but let's go on to Lyndall. Thank you so much for that input. And we'll come back to you with some more questions later. So let's now go on to Lyndall, and I'll do my fancy button stuff and hope that I'm going to also then get the right deck. Sure. Okay, there we go. Hopefully that's now showing Lyndall. Is that showing? Oh, no, nothing's showing now. It's like the Tom and Jerry show here today. Is that now showing Lyndall's? Yeah, great. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so Lyndall, fantastic to welcome you, Lyndall Moodley, also an alumni of the SAB Foundation Tholoana program. So really grateful to have two fantastic alumni here. I think I'm hardly going to try and summarize your business journey, Lyndall, because it's been incredible. But what I will just say, because I like to set it up, is that Lyndall came out of corporate. So she has a degree. She has a degree in IT technology, and she had a long experience in corporate, and is one of those delightful people that has education, has experience, and chooses to leave to start a business. And I often think that that is the perfect sweet spot for success. And certainly you've gone on to prove that that's true. So Lyndall, welcome to you. I'm not going to read all your accolades. We'll be here all day. And let's just jump straight into you telling your story. Yeah, just a little bit more about where did you come from, and some of your business journey, and then get us to where you are now, because that's super exciting.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kathy. And thank you so much for the opportunity. You know, SAB Foundation's Tholoana program has been the turning point for me. All of those accolades and all of those things that you see, sometimes I think it's flattery, but it comes down to the nuts and bolts of, are you running a successful business? Are you making a difference in people's lives? And so my journey began when I became a mom. And so I knew I wanted to spend the maximum amount of time with my children. And I'm a mom of 4, and I was not going to sacrifice that dream for any corporate. And so when I knew that this dream was within my reach, I knew I had to take the plunge. And that was when I started my entrepreneurial journey. And I bought my first store. So it was Kids Emporium. It was a franchise that I started here in KZN. And my first store was in Gateway Mall. And then just to cut a long story short, that was where my journey in the baby industry started. And so with that many babies of my own, I was an expert already. I knew what moms wanted. And so that was where I decided to make the most difference. And so when COVID came along, I had the opportunity of actually starting my own manufacturing line. So through my e-commerce stores, which was where my strength was, I still had to have manufacturing to feed those stores, and that was being outsourced at the time. And so I took the decision to start manufacturing in-house. I started in a little garage with 2 machines. I'm not a machinist, not skilled in that area, so completely trusted it over to employees that are still with me today. And so I'm hugely grateful, because my business would not be where it is without them. And at the moment, I run a hybrid business. So I've got several online stores, for which my manufacturing line is based in my factory. So it's both manufacturing as well as that I'm currently doing. And so our manufacturing line through the Tholoana program, SAB's Foundation and Tholoana program, I've actually now started supplying corporates. So being a boutique manufacturer, the exciting part has been that the manufacturing arm has grown. And so we now also supply corporates with promotional wear. So that's where we are.
That's fantastic. I think that's such a lovely story. I love the fact that you said you have so many children yourself. That was an obvious space to go into, because I think that people sometimes miss the obvious, and that when you start the beginning of a good business is that you've seen there's a demand. You have a network. You have some experience, and you have a passion about where you're going. So in your case, you had the corporate experience, so you knew what it means to be in a big business with systems. You'd also managed to build up a bit of a nest egg, which is valuable to you. But you knew the problems as a mother that you were trying to solve. And I think that's sometimes a very easy way for people to understand is that if you have a problem, that's often a place to start a good business. So that's fantastic. So tell me, over time, so you've won some, you've lost some, you came through COVID. What's been the greatest challenge for you, and maybe what still is?
So I found that because I'm now in an industry that I'm not skilled for, which is on the manufacturing side, not having had that experience, I don't know how to construct a garment, or didn't know how to construct a garment. And those kind of challenges constantly faced me. Together with the fact that, I'm still running the business. I'm an e-commerce store. So I'm doing all the marketing and having to be on top of things with all these new things that are coming out, ChatGPT, AI, TikTok, all of those things that I have to be really on board with, being a 45-year-old mom and still having to now manage the manufacturing side. That has been a huge challenge for me. However, and this is purely because I have come onto the SAB's Foundation Tholoana program. Purely because of this program, I've been able to identify where I needed the skills development. And through the mentorship that I got, I was able to then identify what the inefficiencies were in the production line and able to then say, okay, now what can I put in place to get better efficiencies? I'm not meant to go and sew the garment, but I'm meant to know how many garments I'm supposed to get out of my manufacturing line. I'm meant to make that an efficient process, but I'm not meant to do the actual job itself. And so that freed me of a lot of guilt as well, because I felt then that I'm actually able to now work on my business and not in the business, and still have the skill to make sure that everything is being taken care of on the manufacturing line.
That's fantastic, because there were quite a few questions coming in saying, you know, how do I get from working in the business to working on the business? And you actually solved it for yourself because you started a business that you didn't know, that you didn't have the skills. So you had no choice. You were not going to be you were not going to be sewing garments. And so I think that was quite clever. But more than that, what really stands out for me is you over time have been comfortable with discomfort. So you've been comfortable with the fact that you don't know what's going on, and you've had the courage to say, well, I have to push on anyway. And that's exactly the AI world that we're in right now, because actually nobody is an expert in AI. And even the experts every day go into a space where they don't know what they're talking about, and they're trying to make it up as they go along. And so I think that if you were talking, you know, so sometimes, again, some of the questions are about, you know, how do I create the mindset for success? Some of the mindset for success for an entrepreneur is you have to be comfortable with the unknown. That is entrepreneurship. You know, I always say that you're moving from the light into darkness. Everybody or followers all want to be in the light. Entrepreneurs are happy to say, well, I want to go where there is no light, because that's the new stuff. I'm learning new stuff. So just tell me, because I think it's very interesting to a lot of the people. Market access is an issue for many people. Just tell us a little bit about your e-commerce. You spoke to me also about your Take-A-Lot, you know, the Proud SA stuff. Tell us a little bit about your e-commerce, and maybe if you're using AI, tell us how you're doing it.
So I think you need to have an IT degree these days to have your own website. There's plenty platforms that you're able to build your own website on your own. So you just can Google it and you could see it's not a difficult thing. It doesn't need to be an expensive thing. And every legitimate business needs to have a website. It doesn't need to be an e-commerce store, but to have credibility, you should be having a website. And so with me, with regards to my own store, so I had built my own website, figured out that now the traffic is too much for this website. I need a professional with better skills, more up-to-date skills. He then came in, developed it for me on a contractual basis, and then further then to that went and developed an app that I was using for marketing purposes. Then I felt like, look, I need more. I'm not reaching enough, because advertising on Facebook and any meta platform is extremely expensive. And so I felt like as a small business, it wasn't making sense. I needed to get more reach on my e-commerce sites, but without having to pay for it. And so Take-A-Lot came on board, and they actually approached me at the time. It was 8 years ago. And they said, look, we're growing the maternity side of the business. Would you be keen to start selling with us? And that was where it started. And obviously, when COVID hit, it was a huge opportunity. Everybody was buying online, and that habit has not stopped. That trend is still growing. And so with Take-A-Lot doing all the marketing and doing all that pushing forward of the brand, it really helped me just gain that momentum that I needed in reach and awareness. And that's what I needed to get out there in order to now convert them and convert the consumer. And so they helped a lot with that. And again, with the SAB Foundation's partnership with Take-A-Lot, we managed to then get on board with the brand partnership program, which paid for my proudly South African audit. And I passed that. And so now we can proudly put that badge with the tick and the South African flag on all our products because we're competing with imports and cheap imports.
Yeah.
Competing with these sites that, are unethical in labor practices. And so I needed to get some form of local credibility to tell those conscious consumers out there, listen, you support this business, you're growing the economy, and you're building jobs. And so that is what that program has helped me do now. And that's gained credibility. And Takealot has actually got stats on how businesses wearing that badge actually enjoy up to 30% plus more sales
Sure.
than those that are just importing.
Oh.
And so this is a story we need to push because these platforms are out there. They're for us to make use of them. As entrepreneurs, we need to keep looking for the opportunity and go for it.
Excellent. I really like that. I think that it a little bit speaks to Kholisile's comment as well. It's about trust. In his case, he's building trust as a social enterprise so that funders will come in, so partners will come on. But he has to build trust for every single parent that's bringing a child, or every single adult that's scared of swimming. So he's building trust all of the time. That also then what you're doing when you have a proudly South African registration or an organic farming registration is every time that certification builds trust. And I think that that's a component that is really vital for any successful business. All right, I think let's see. I'm going to ask you a little question also of the 304 that I have on my my list here. So one of the questions is, how do I leverage the networks I've built up over the years in order to elevate my business to the next level? So Lyndall, what would you advise to unfortunately, I don't have the name, but what would you advise to that person?
Yeah, so I, for a long time, struggled with going back to my networks that I had formed in corporate. And I had plenty, but I was just so shy to ask and put myself forward. And so the first thing that I actually did was when I started the manufacturing arm, I created for myself a LinkedIn profile with my business as the key person. And so the LinkedIn profile helped me to go out and tell my existing network of professional people who had the ability to give me business that, look, I can now do manufacturing for Unilever, for Beiersdorf, for any of these big corporates, and you are actually supporting a small business and you're supporting creating jobs in our local economy. And so networking, I think, is the most important. You have to be brave, be confident in what you're actually putting forward. I wouldn't want to have put myself forward if I was not confident of the quality and the service that I was able to provide my network and my previous corporate peers. I want to be proud of where I am and what the product that I'm supplying. And so I think be brave, be courageous, put yourself out there and just put away the generational shyness. We're always so shy to ask. But when you actually voice your thing and voice your opinion and put yourself forward, you find that you get so much more satisfaction, even personal satisfaction as an entrepreneur, because you know that you're actually putting something that's authentic forward because you're putting yourself forward.
That's amazing. And I always think also the reminder that people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
I think entrepreneurs, I'm always saying to entrepreneurs, stop hiding behind your company brand. You're a tiny little business. Your business reputation is your reputation. You have to put yourself, get over it. You just have to put yourself forward and use yourself and your personal attributes. I'm going to ask you one more because this really relates to you. There's somebody saying, how can I find a manufacturer in sportswear that does not require large MOQs?
You can ask me.
That's
nice one, Kat. So ideally, you would be looking for a manufacturer that is a boutique manufacturer. So generally, a boutique manufacturer would cost slightly more because we are running on smaller MOQs. However, we're more flexible, so you probably will get the whole service line, the pattern, the sizing, the grading, the material, all of that would be found under one manufacturing house, which you would struggle to do if you were in a bigger manufacturing environment. And so you also get flexibility. My advice would be you could also reach out to me on my email. If you are in another province and looking for a manufacturer in another province, I'd also be able to assist you because we do have networks across the provinces.
Great. And you see the thing, networks, guys, networks. I think, the power of the network, definitely. Maybe AI is going to overtake that. I don't think so, because again, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. Fantastic. Thanks, Lyndall. I'm going to go jump. I don't know if there's, I have 300 questions here, and so I'm just trying to pick those that I think are interesting to people. So maybe if anybody has a real burning question, you can actually pop it in the thread. And in the meantime, I'm going to go on to Kholisile, because I did see one. I can't find it now, but I did see one. How do I build a successful social enterprise? I think that one's like right in your corner, Kholisile. If you had to say like three tips to somebody that's burning passion to start a social enterprise, what do you think they should get right?
I really like what Lyndall said. It's absolutely amazing. And you asked a spot on question. In social networks, it's about networking. But that's the first thing. When you have that network, you have to show value to the network. It's going to be like a pro quid pro. Because the person you are networking with must be able to see the value in your business. That's the first one. The second one, you need to have a pulse for what are the key challenges that we're facing. For example, in my case, it's the unemployment that is a big challenge, number one. We have these kids that are classified as the NEETs, not in employment, education, or training. So you have to have a passion, which is a start. Passion is a start. To solve a particular problem for a particular age group. So mine is 18 to 35s. So 18 to 35s are really, really struggling with employment training skills. They are hopping from one entrepreneurship program to another program, looking for something that they can find. However, when you open that curtain for them to show them that what you are bringing to the fore is a very, very important skill that can solve unemployment, you've got your finger on the pulse. Secondly, the departments are waiting for entrepreneurs, for social entrepreneurs. They are literally waiting for social entrepreneurs to come knock on their doors. You'll be surprised, Department of Forest and Fisheries, they are struggling to find credible entrepreneurs that will solve the problems in deep rural areas. Organizations like COCTA, they are suffering to find entrepreneurs that will solve simple things like education in rural areas. So you need to be having your finger on the pulse all the time. I know it's boring. I absolutely know it's boring, but you need to read. If you do not read the annual general reports of these organizations, you're not going to know what's happening in the country. You are not going to identify the problem. And if you can't identify the problem, you'll not be able to go confidently knock on that door. So read and have your finger on the pulse to understand what are the key problems in your society. And once you identify that, for example, Kathy, over 90% of South Africans cannot swim. It's a big problem. But as an entrepreneur, it's a big opportunity. It's a massive opportunity as an entrepreneur. So identify those social issues, then solve them as an entrepreneur.
Perfect. Thanks, Kholisile. Yes, exactly. As I said, when I was speaking to Lyndall, start with the demand. In the social enterprise, one has to be cautious because the demand is that people need to learn to swim. But the challenge is when they cannot pay for the service. So social enterprise often has to have a different revenue model where you've gone to a corporate or a municipality to say, you pay me to solve the problem. And so that's what I always think a social enterprise is much more difficult to get right is a commercial enterprise. But that's fantastic. Thank you for that key advice. I think, which one of you wants to have a go at? Can you advise how to develop a growth plan and outline our critical success factors? And I suppose that's about saying, first of all, how do I set where I want to go? And how do I decide on the three most important things? And this is a difficult question, which is why I'm not going to answer it, and I'm going to give it over to you guys. So how do you decide on what your growth is going to be, and how do you personally kind of go through the process of saying, these are the three things I need to get right?
You want to go, Lyndall?
You can go
Please
first.
Go. Okay. So for me, thank you very much, Lyndall. For me, Kathy, what the growth phase started coming when I realized that I started as a diver. I'm a master diver myself, but I realized that if I'm going to be stuck in the classroom teaching people to scuba dive and all of that, I'm not going to be working on the business. First key things, work on your business all the time. You must work on the business, and you must find people that you trust who will work for you in the business. First thing that I did. Second thing that I did is you are always going to fail. Remember that. You will fail, but what you need to do is you have to go back to say, okay, I've got this passion that has driven me to get here. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to reconfigure, and I'm going to relaunch. And then you repeat again, and then you repeat again in cyclical formats. And then you find and eliminate what does not work in your business. They say sacred cows make great steaks. If you have to abandon diving because it's no longer working, abandon it. And the most important thing, lastly, before I hand over to Lyndall, is that you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Every year we do this exercise, Kathy, me and my wife, we ask ourselves, do we still have a business? Is this still a business? Because if it's not a business, then you have to put it aside and go and start something else. Be brutally honest with yourself.
Excellent. And I've just picked up something. You speak about your wife. Lyndall speaks about her husband. We have some family teams here. So I think I'm going to ask you a second question to follow up. Lyndall, you just say, how do you choose your three priorities? And then somebody put a question, how do you manage family? I don't think they were looking for marital advice. I think they were talking about how do we manage the family that's my employee. Yeah, so go maybe choose which one. You choose which question you want to answer. Maybe both.
Okay, so I think I can touch on both very quickly. So the first one, because I'm in the process of actually applying for the Financing for Impact program, I know that, I've been given this advice and it's been excellent advice. Always have that external person that you believe has got the required skill to have a look into your business and help you prioritize and strategize. So when you set the strategy, and which you should be, because right now the strategy for 2026 should be done already. You should already know what Jan, Feb, and March are going to look like for you. Be realistic, look at your forecast and open yourself up to opportunities that you may possibly not have looked at before. So one example of this for me has been exports. So I felt like, oh, look, I've just been holding myself within the confines of the country. Whenever I put my numbers together, I'm only looking at stats from South Africa. Whereas when I look at cross-border opportunity, I'm like, wow, now to an investor, I look so much better because I'm actually looking like I've got growth plans that are exceeding 25, 30%, and they're not unrealistic because these are things that I can actually achieve. And then I've hooked on to experts in the field. Look at people who have done it before. Export experts, people that can give you access to network with agents and distributors within other countries. And that is, again, what the SAB Foundation's partnership with the DTI has done. Practical things that I know I'm feeding into my forecast that can then say, go to an investor, hi, have a look, this is realistic, this is something that I can do. So that was the first part of the question. The second thing is, I'm sorry, I didn't go through three, but you can weave out some three, the top. Good. And then with family, I got into entrepreneurship because I wanted to spend time with my kids. I do have one child that is differently abled. And so for me, that's exceptionally important. Time is more valuable than money to me. However, I felt that I'm doing business with my husband as well. He's not a director on my business. He has a business of his own. He's in plastic and recycling. Whenever he comes in to sit and look at the numbers with me, I find that there is that fresh perspective. There is an alternate perspective. He's a different industry. He sees things differently. However, he's not enough, because having a family member give you that advice puts you on an island. And so you have similar worldviews. That's why you're together in the first place. Your worldviews are similar. So you have to be inviting to have an external partner come in and say, hey guys, let's try and do something differently here. So it's a blessing because you're on the same page, build healthy relationships, time together, all of that, but also can be a curse if you're too much aligned and you're not seeing things from a different perspective.
Love it. Love that input. Thank you so much. Kholisile, I'm actually going to focus a little bit different on that question for you. I don't know if you've ever employed a family member. Yes, you have. Okay, so what is it that you probably got things wrong? We all get things wrong.
Yes.
What do you, if you recommend to that person that's saying, how do I manage my family member? What are the key things that they need to get right?
So it's tough employing a family member because when you are in business, you are going to have disagreements, number one. And you, as I said earlier, you have to be brutally honest about the types of disagreements that you have. You must be able to have those hard conversations. I had to let go of my nephew and 2 nieces because I could see it's not a fit. I said to them, I love you, I love you, you're my children, I raised you, but I'm going to have to let you go because they were not a fit. And it's that brutally honest conversations that you must always have with the people that are close to you. Fortunately, my wife, she's not going anywhere anytime soon because we've been in this journey for a very long time. What I love about her perspective is her strategic viewpoint on things. So I'm this logically minded type of a person who moves from point A to point B. She brings this different element of looking at things strategically at a completely different angle. And 2 months down the line, we see, okay, your strategy works, and then we implement that, and then we start reiterating, making sure that we grow it cyclically. So it's very difficult to employ family members in your business, but when you get that right, you are very lucky because family businesses are actually doing
lovely.
Very well.
Nice, thanks. Thanks both of you. I've had both. I've had many businesses with a partner, with my now ex-husband, and I've run it on my own. I think just very simply, it's important to treat all employees equally. And so the fundamentals there are, have you got a clear job description? So is there real clarity? Because often when you start off, everybody just someone does everything. So being really short to formalize and saying, okay, there's the formal job description. Here's your KPIs, and have a formal process of check-ins. So you can, just so that that you have a mechanism to deal with things when the performance is not right. Just the same with anybody that's not family. But I always take it with caution. Be cautious about employing family members because they're very difficult to fire. Because anyway, all right. I think that's probably enough of our questions. So I don't see any hands up for adding some new ones, but maybe while people get a little bit of courage, we can go over if there are some. I want to add, while people are raising their courage, is that 2 things actually came to me recently in some research that I did. And that is where South Africa has not kept up with the rest of the world. And I think it's not kept up in the concept of world class. So we've kind of spent 30 years trying to create opportunities for people, development opportunities, maybe access to a corporate supply chain. And we've just said, let me give you a chance. And if you compare South Africa to a country like India or a country like China, where they do a lot of exporting, every component along the way has to be world class for something to be a world class export. And so I think that quite a few of the questions were, I'm a startup, how do I get access into a supply chain? Or, I want to get access to finance, how do I get access to finance? I think the starting point is for all of us, from Fetola outwards, is to say, how do we become world class? And to really set that as a pinnacle. So again, Lyndall is speaking about saying she's got the proudly South African certification, and that's just the beginning. So she's saying that's a step towards being really world class. So I think that's something all of us should be thinking about. How can we be the best? And not from an ego point of view, but how can we be the best so that we are absolutely irresistible to our customers? So I think that's the first thing that we as a country can do much better on. I think the other thing that we've not been great about in South Africa is collaboration. So again, if I look at some of the other thriving economies in the world, they have managed collaboration much better. They've realized, again, if I can just use China as an example. So you know the stories about Sock City or Zip City or Shoe City. Why do they exist as cities? Because they're collaborating. So in our case, maybe in Lyndall's case, she suddenly gets an export order for 100,000 baby growers. She can't supply 100,000 baby growers. So what does she do? Does she walk away from the deal? I'm pretty sure Lyndall will say, let me crowd in. Let me find other suppliers so we can crowd in, we can collaborate in order to meet that. And I think in South Africa, we're much too much. We want to do it on our own. We don't want to talk to that person. Ooh, we don't want to tell them about that. And one tiny business will take 100 years to become a big business. But one tiny business can collaborate with 5 or 10 others and very quickly have enough scale and enough capabilities in order to advance. And so I think that those are two things that I'm really keen for people to take on board, become world-class and really look for ways to collaborate. Because you've heard both from Lyndall and Kholisile, how building those two components in their business is one of the keys that they've used to get ahead. Great, thanks, Sakani. Sakani Boloy's got a nice question. Can I elaborate on world-class? Is it related to customer satisfaction? I think it's a lot of those things. I mean, world-class would certainly mean, so let's just take Kholisile. I'm going to actually give it to you. Kholisile, in your case, what does world-class mean?
We are affiliated to an organization called Scuba Schools International. It's a German-based company that is accrediting us. So every certificate that I give for a student, they can take that certificate to any parts of the world and they can find work, they can dive, they can do whatever. So for us, world class is basing the standards on this Scuba Schools International, because every year, like now, we are now going to be vetted to get a certificate to operate for next year. So we can never operate without SSI sending somebody come to my little school here to come and look, do I have all the do I adhere to all the quality standards that are required? Do I have an O2 cylinder? Do I have this? Do I have that? So that is what world class means, affiliating to an international organization from a country that is as respected as Germany and going around to say, I am Scuba Schools International certificate.
Thank you. So world class can mean accreditation. So again, Lyndall has proudly South African accreditation. I'm sure there are people maybe in tourism that have accreditation. But your specific question is, does that relate to customer satisfaction? Now think about that. You can have, Kholisile could have this accreditation and not have a business, right?
That is correct.
You could have accreditation, you got all the tick boxes, got safety equipment, but you haven't built customer satisfaction. So again, it's like what are the components? You need the technical component to be world-class. In your case, it's an accreditation. You need also to have the marketing and the sales in order to build trust to people, bring people in. And then absolutely fundamental, your question is so on point. If you're not satisfying your clients, if they're not satisfied, either satisfied with the product or the pricing or the service, then you will never build something that's of world class. So world class really means getting all of those, definitely the service component and the product component has to be right, spot on. Anything you want to add to that, Lyndall? Anything I've missed out?
I think it's such a good point, because if you look at what is happening with the US and the relationship with South Africa, it was a very interesting discussion on East Coast Radio the other day, and they said, what brands would you be willing to do without because that's probably the trajectory of where this is going. Like products would you be willing to do without? And so it strikes then in your mind as an entrepreneur. We currently don't just compete with South African products, we compete with the world. So if I am supposed to be putting my product out there, I have to make sure that I am competing on quality, branding, storyline, all of those things. And so it just raises the game. It is giving you the opportunity to compete on an international platform. I always say this in my business. I say to my staff, we must be able to wear a garment upside down so that everybody, that's how proud we must be. The stitching needs to be that world class because we're proud of it. We're putting our names to it, aren't we? So this is what we do to raise the bar to get to that world standard. And then in terms of collaboration, this is something that is so big. And I find, maybe because I'm a woman as well, that I find that we come from a culture of suspicion. We always suspecting another entrepreneur. You're going to steal my idea. You're going to steal my customer. You're going to do all of those things. But yet when we drop that curtain of suspicion and we open ourselves up to working with one another, especially like-minded women, not women that are just in it for a hobby. It's like-minded people and entrepreneurs, and partner with those people, you find that you grow together and that there's so much more to be had. The net just is cast so much wider. So collaboration is key, but you just have to drop that thing of suspicion. Yeah.
Excellent. That's fantastic. No additional questions coming through. Maybe last chance for people. But otherwise, I think that's been really fantastic. I'm not quite sure what to do with all of these questions because there's probably 298 that we didn't answer. But maybe the team will find ways. Maybe you can register, and the team will find ways to get you the answers to your questions. But I think this has been really interesting, really fantastic, and I thank you, Kholisile and Lyndall, for being part of it. I wish you well, and I'm really delighted to have you as alumni of the SAB Foundation Tholoana program, and of course alumni of Fetola. Our team are really dedicated, every single one of them, to changing your trajectory and making a difference in your business, in your families, in your communities, and ultimately in the whole of South Africa. So I really thank you. Thank you for being so generous with your time today. Everybody, thank you for attending. I've loved the session. I'm so grateful for Lyndall and Kholisile for.
It's been great. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you so very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, guys.
Time over Christmas. Those of you who work in season, may this be the best season ever. Maybe you coin it, maybe you make all that money. May you be able to really fill the coffers and celebrate in great style. And go forth and make the country a better place. Lovely to be to see you all, and blessings.